My boyfriend 32M told me 28F a white lie for almost 3 years, and I'm not sure if it's a red flag. I'll try to make this as short as possible, but it's going to be long as hell because there is so much lying going on. My boyfriend and I have been dating for almost 3 years, living together for 2. We have a pretty good relationship, obviously with ups and downs, but we make it work and are happy. A little background on Memi boyfriend for context. I come from a single-parent home. My father was absent. My mother is by no means perfect, but she did her best with what she had. We were poor. Life was never easy for us, but we had each other. Since I was pretty young, I've wanted to pay her back someday. I've worked incredibly hard to be able to do so. I help her financially as much as I can, and regularly pay her bills, send her cash. I'm also her only living child now as my brother passed away 5 years ago, which basically left me to help her. I don't care. I love my mother, and the right thing to do is to help her when she needs it. But is stressful. This is relevant because my boyfriend described coming from a somewhat similar past, and it is something we have bonded over. Having the mutual experiences seemed to bring us closer. He told me he also helped his parents financially, and we would often vent to each other about the stress it brings. I am not one to confide in many people, so having someone who I felt like actually understood me was meaningful to me. So here is where the lies come in, and I need someone to either tell me I'm not crazy, and this is fucked up, or that I am crazy and this isn't a huge deal. I'm fine with either. When we met, my boyfriend lived in a condo in a pretty swanky part of the city. I live in the US Northeast. He told me he owned that apartment condo. I found this to be interesting odd because he was 28 at the time. And I know this property is upwards of $650,000 on the low end. And he was in an entry-level job for only like 2 hours, so the numbers just didn't really add up. Whatever, maybe he's good at saving. But then, since living together, I never once saw a piece of mail for a mortgage. Payment, electric bill, taxes, nothing. Not for 2 whole years. Very odd. Also, when we started living together, he didn't have his room rented out in the former apartment yet, so he was still responsible for that portion of the rent. He would send a Venmo payment to his mother on the first of every month for his portion. I don't own property, but I can't think of a scenario where I would Venmo my mother to pay the mortgage on a property I supposedly own. Getting more odd. He would then go to his parents' house for an afternoon and come back really upset. Usually when I would ask why, it was because they were having financial problems, and he needed to help them out. I totally understood this and supported him. He literally has cried on my shoulder about this many times. He tried to start a company years back and ended up getting into debt somehow. He told me this debt was $17,000 and that he paid it off. I'm confused because I met him only 2 to 3 years after the supposed debt-accrued company dissolved, and it was already paid off? He told me when he moved back home after the business failed, he was $17K in debt and living at his parents' house working at a minimum wage job. How someone with a minimum wage job pays off that much debt? In 3 years, I'll never know. We got into a fight a few weeks ago, and I finally had enough and confronted him about these things. Long story short, he doesn't help his parents. They actually pay his phone bill, and this was all a lie. He doesn't own that apartment. He didn't pay off that debt from his company. He initially told me his parents helped pay it off, and then, like 3 months later, came clean and said that his business partner paid it off. So I have literally no idea what the truth is there, and if anything, in my eyes, his parents are the ones who are financially supporting him. So now I'm dating a 31-year-old man who doesn't pay his own phone bill, was lying to me, and/or completely fabricating aspects of his life for 3 years, and then, when confronted about it, continued to make up lies and then came clean about them 5 months later. I'm obviously concerned that he could lie for this long, about fundamentally important things, like our values and so on. I sincerely thought I would marry this man. He seemed to understand me like no one else and to be a truly caring and genuine person. Now I'm having a hard time rationalizing, actually planning a life around someone who would not only lie about their background and family, etc., but also financial aspects. Aside from that, I now can't tell what is the truth and what is a lie. I've also noticed other things he has lied about, called him out on it, and he has denied it outright to my face. I see this as a form of gaslighting, as I know I'm not wrong, but he is trying to convince me otherwise. Am I overreacting? Is this a white lie that went haywire? Or is this actually a series of complete and utter bullshit used to manipulate me? And also, is it insane for me to actually consider a life with this man? Any advice is appreciated. Update. My previous post got more attention than expected, so I figured I'd update. Well, it's over, as many of you suggested. I couldn't possibly build my life around someone who lied so pathologically. I initially agreed to work on the relationship provided that my ex get therapy to work, through why he felt compelled to lie about so many aspects of his life. I also requested that he come clean to his parents, my parents, and anyone else he lied to or embellished the truth to. He agreed to this and seemed genuinely interested in working on things and himself. I really wanted it to work out and was willing to accept that. Maybe he was just wildly insecure, had some attachment issues or something that caused him to act this way. I waited 4 months for the therapy and confessions to happen, and they never did, not surprisingly. For those of you who were confused about how I didn't know, he did not own this apartment for so long thought. I had never met his parents. I had met them many, many times. But TBH, they are pretty cold people who I never really connected with that much, and was definitely not comfortable enough to be like, hey, is your son a pathological liar, or is all of this true? On top of that, he also told a lot of these lies to his parents as well, so they wouldn't have been keen to what I was talking about anyway. It got to the point where basically anything that came out of his mouth seemed like a lie, or at least a half-truth to me. Also, I lost respect for someone who could lie so easily, and then not even feel guilty enough or any remorse to come clean about it. I'm pretty honest, almost to a fault. So the cognitive dissonance there that occurred from being with someone who had basically opposite values from me was tough. I'm sure there were a lot of other things he was hiding, but I don't even care. I've been single and living alone for a week, and to be frank, I'm killing it. I'm now responsible for 100% of my rent, and I barely have any savings left. But I still feel like a giant weight has lifted off my shoulders. Crazy how that works. I want to thank all of the people who gave me the hard truth straight up and encouraged me to leave. Even though it was all coming from internet strangers, it still helps to hear people tell you that you deserve more than what you're getting. I'm so happy, and I must be giving off a much better vibe. Because I've already had 2 dates and been asked for my number a handful of times. I'm a server at a restaurant, LOL. I sound like a cocky asshole, but God, does it feel good to remember you're not as worthless as someone made you feel. Thanks, Reddit. And if any of you are in a relationship with someone who is like this, GTFO and don't look back.